Cool.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Are you good to go, Michael?
I'm ready, Kevin. Thank you.
Okay, splendid. Splendid. Oh, let me just open this up. Okay, people. So today, now this is a man. This is we've had some great conversations, but this I feel is going to be a epic one. We have Michael Lazovsky. Apologies if I butchered your name, Michael.
No worries.
We're here to talk about his new documentary, Sleeping Dog. Michael, welcome to the podcast, firstly, but this is some crazy work, my friend. This
Thank you.
is like, what is crazy to me is this, I believe, is your feature directorial debut, right?
It is, yes. I've only done shorts before this one.
Yeah. So your first feature is this. Like, that is whoa.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I was not this was not planned. None of it was. Um, Not what I thought would happen.
I mean, it is pretty epic, man. Like, I mean, what was your thinking that what this would be? You know what I mean? Like,
So
you're
yeah.
looking to make something, like, how, what was the thought behind?
I think the universe guided me with this one. I mean, so I was originally going back the producer. Well, I came on board. So I went to the AFI, the American Film Institute, as a directing
Yeah.
fellow. Did a bunch of horror films. Came on board the podcast during the writer's strike because that's kind of when we were let out. There was no work in the narrative field going on. It was
Mm,
awful. And so podcasts were something that were still going, and I was initially the editor, became the producer. And one thing I noticed was when the cameras were off, the conversations got really good. So,
yes. So
at
that's
that
weaponized for people that
weaponized,
don't know.
correct, yes, weaponized. So it was a process. It was, in a process where first I asked Jeremy Corbell access to his archive that goes back 20 years. That's him filming with John Lear, Edgar Mitchell, all these, people that he's filmed with and never put out footage. And
Mm,
then it kind of was a domino effect. So at first, it might have been a John Lear movie, might have been an Edgar Mitchell movie. I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted to make a film. Um, but it sort of dominoed and spiraled into this film. So it was sort of a slow process of many months and going through hundreds of hours of archive footage to really put a story together. It was a challenge.
yo. That's good. Like, because this feels like Icarus. You know what I mean? It feels like it is, you know what I mean? It's one thing, and then all of a sudden it just blows up into something else, and you're like, whoa, right? You're just like, what is happening? Right? Like, what is, and I'm thinking to myself, fuck, is Jeremy Corbell gonna be killed? Right? And then I see the time, right? Like I see the time of the reveal when he goes on the press at the end. I was like, oh, okay. Okay. It was a little bit,
But
you know,
I'll say that was reality. That was
yeah.
reality. It was capturing reality as it unfolded. And that's, so that was the experience and we want it to be true. One thing, Jeremy, the condition of making this movie was do not lie, tell the
Mm,
truth. And, I didn't want to blow things up, make them more dramatic than they were. It was a really scary time and what was happening in his life was really intense. So yeah, I mean, this surprised me as much as it did him. None of it was planned. None of it was planned. It just happened to be what we were able to capture.
mm. So being able to, I mean, firstly, coming onto the podcast, right? So
Yep.
how did that happen? Right? Everything shut down, right? But why you? Like, why?
Why me?
How
I
did
ask that all the
you?
time.
Yeah,
No,
how did you get that gig?
really interesting, and he has an interesting perspective too, Jeremy, because he doesn't trust anybody. He gets people to reach out to him all the time, right?
Mm,
And it's hard to trust, who know who to trust. So I cold emailed him or cold called him I sent a voice note actually. I think that's what he requests on his site if you want to reach out to him.
Right.
And the reason I did that was actually when I was at the AFI, we had a class where we had to cold call three people in the film industry that we look up to every week and then report back to our professor. It was a class assignment, and it was interesting because 95% of the people pick up the phone and will actually have a
Okay.
conversation. Especially when you say, "Hey, you go to AFI, like you're a filmmaker, and I look up to you, and I just want, this is a class assignment." Like it kind of breaks down some of the barriers.
Yeah.
So it was amazing, like the people in our class, the people that they got to speak to and speak with. So for me, that gave me a lot of confidence. I was thinking, oh, I can reach out to anybody. It gives you this, right? And it's hard to do at first to cold call people. But
Mm.
Jeremy was somebody that was sort of, I wasn't a UFO guy, but I believed in it too. I was into like I knew who Jeremy was, but I didn't know,
Yes.
for example, who John Lear was. Like I had a lot of ignorance, I would say, in the field. I did not know a lot. So I reached out to Jeremy. I saw that he was a prominent figure in the space, somebody that you can trust, and he got back to me, and he needed help. And I think he was at a place in his podcast where he was doing a lot of the work. He was editing it. He just needed somebody, I think,
Mm.
to sort of save the ship, because he was doing a lot and he was stressed out. So it was just good timing, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely feel him on that. It takes a lot.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're working on the podcast, you're seeing these conversations off air, and you're thinking, this is some interesting stuff, right? So, how do you get him to hand over or give you access to all of those files?
Yeah, so I obviously did like a deep dive into Jeremy and like what he's been up to because my goal, like I was a podcast editor, but I want to be a
Mm,
filmmaker. This is my first feature, right? But I want to make movies. So that was always like my perspective going into it. A lot of podcasts are now being made into films, a lot of unscripted. So, but I was thinking, okay, Jeremy, like what has he done? You go on his IMDb, you see all of these unreleased projects that he has sort of maybe cut on his website some trailers for, but he never put out the footage. And it was interesting stuff that's publicly available. He filmed with
mm.
John Lear for years. He filmed with Edgar Mitchell. So many of these little trailers that he put together, I thought, okay, well, somewhere he has the full raw footage of, filming with him for years. So I kind of approached Jeremy and said, hey, you have all of these unreleased projects, unreleased films. And, from his perspective, is he has just not had time to put them together. He would love for all of it to get out. There's Mark Mahoney, a tattoo artist. He's not even in the movie, but he filmed with him for like 2 years. And it's such a fascinating, it could be a
Right.
fascinating other film, nothing to do with UFOs. He's like
Mm.
the legendary tattoo artist Mark Mahoney, tattoos Johnny Depp, all these like Lana Del Rey, right? Fascinating story about him. So, anyways, that's when I told him, hey, look, maybe I can look at it and we can make something out of it, right? And the footage was just sitting in a hard drive, and he said, okay, you know what? I'll give you some of the footage that I can see, nothing sensitive. Look through it. It was again hundreds of hours. It was very tedious work. And he said, okay, cut together something. Let's see what you can do. And that's how the process started.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yo, okay. So you have all of this footage, right? And I think when I've spoken to other documentarians, it's like oftentimes you don't know what it's going to be until you get through it. You know what I mean? Like you can edit it and put things together, but it's like, okay, it's not that. Right? And
Yeah.
then you look again and it's like, it's not
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And it can take a while to find it. Now, sometimes, as we know, right, there's people that want a certain message to go out. So from the beginning, they can sculpt it to be that thing. But for you with this, what were you thinking? What, like in that initial search, right? What was the thought process of what this could be? Because with all that
Yeah.
footage, right, it's a needle in a haystack.
So I was, fishing for a story, right? In all the footage. So a who, meaning a person,
Mm,
and what the story is, what is their arc, what is the journey, right? Something interesting and what is their journey. Now, originally I was thinking this would be like maybe a four-part series on some of his unreleased work that I would cut together. I think the first thing I actually put together was like a 45-minute sample, I would say, episode or something with about Mark Mahoney. And again,
Right.
I was just playing around. Dr. Wu is in that footage. He's a very big tattoo artist now. So that was, a very different thing than the UFO stuff.
Mm.
Not nothing to do with UFOs at all, but it is part of Jeremy's investigative work or what he has recorded over the years. That was supposed to actually be like a Vice HBO thing, from what I understand, but it was just never made. And he still has the footage. So, I think over time I started, while doing Weaponize and editing and trying to find a story, I started seeing, okay, Jeremy, like that's an interesting guy. Like he has had a very colorful history. And, the more I started learning about him, I started realizing, okay, well, people are only really seeing the tip of the iceberg when we release footage, when Jeremy and George release footage, and when the whistleblowers come on the podcast. People
Mm.
are not seeing just how much goes into it. And I started also, I read the comments. I know that Jeremy is a controversial figure. Some people, think that this dude is in it for money. Some dude, the crazy stuff that people make up. It's actually hilarious. Like
Mm.
I find it really funny because one, it's not true, but two, it's just like if it were true, it would be hilarious. It's just not true. So sometimes I die of laughter with these comments, and so that's sort of the angle. I wanted people to know the truth about him, and then I had access to his all of his work pretty much. So I thought, okay, that's what's going to be my North Star. Like Jeremy Corbell, his career, how he became, a lot of people don't know this. He's the one that briefs Congress on this stuff. He
Mm.
provided, people have been talking about the 46 files, video footage files right now in the news that Congress wants, the federal government to release. Like Jeremy and George provided that to Congress. The hearings were all really because of them. They brought the whistleblowers forward. David Grush testified because of Jeremy. So, I mean, they are the ones pushing this forward. That's an interesting guy, but he has an even more interesting past. So I was like, okay, this is an interesting character. And also, I am obsessed with characters that have obsessions. Like,
Mm.
I love that. And Jeremy is obsessed and he acts on his obsession. He doesn't just sit down. Like, he
Yes.
is a bulldog. So watching that, I just wanted to record it. I wanted to, I learned more, about him, and it was fascinating to me.
You definitely just, you know what I mean, found an ideal muse for this thing, man. Like, and I think just the approach, right? Looking at like the whole martial arts background, right? Just
Yeah.
and how it just all evolved, right? And just his first meeting with Michael Lear, and you know what I mean? The fact that, I mean, just that, right? Hitting up Michael Lear for a year, getting nothing, and then all of a sudden he's there. And then he's there and he won't talk to him. And so it's just like all of this, you're just like, this is crazy,
It,
right?
so wild. And he just, yeah, I mean, again, he on his own dime recorded with him for
Mm,
years. I think he also found John to be just an interesting guy. Like
yeah.
he did not believe everything John was telling him, of course,
Mm,
but he just thought, okay, there's a fascinating guy that I'm capturing on camera that is kind of a big deal. He is considered the godfather of conspiracy, the original guy, I'm in his office, you see it in the movie, it's just full of screens, and I mean,
yeah.
it is this massive conspiracy looking, off. And so, anyways, yeah, I mean, I think he found him interesting. And, again, I wanted that footage out. I think it was fascinating.
I mean, the the really valuable thing about that footage, I think, is the fact that he is saying, I'm not sure how much of this I can believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He like Jeremy's like, yes, I believe in some of this stuff, but some of this stuff I just can't believe, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. Yeah.
And but the thing with that is, right, it shows that Jeremy isn't just, oh, anything you throw at me, I'm gonna believe. I'm gonna just, right? He's critical of things, right? He's
Jeremy's
breaking
neutral.
it
Yeah,
down.
no, Jeremy's neutral is to not believe what you're telling him.
Yeah.
That's a truth. He's a very skeptical person. And the reason for that, I mean, he's had to be because, you know, weaponize all these like emails that we get just from the podcast. I mean, it's insane. You cannot
Mm.
trust everyone for their word. I mean, majority, 99% of people. I mean, but some people are misinformed too.
Yeah.
Some people think they saw something, but they didn't, So I think Jeremy, him and George really report on military filmed and verified footage from people in government. I think they're very nuts and bolts about the issue. They don't do the woo-woo thing. I think Jeremy
Mm.
was capturing John Lear because he was interesting, but yeah, he did not believe a lot of the stuff and theories that he had. And by the way, again, I had to condense years of footage into like a few minutes for the movie. I mean, it's even wilder, some of the claims, but I wanted to keep it centered around Jeremy. I didn't want
Yeah.
this to become a John Lear movie, right? But it is Jeremy's story. But oh my God, like some of the other stuff that didn't make the movie, and maybe one day Jeremy will release it. It's just wild theories, wild stuff that he was exposed. And the people made pilgrimages, they call it, to come visit John Lear.
Mm.
So it was just fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, obviously, John says some wild stuff
Yeah.
in that, right? But then you do have him like talking to Bob. Um, oh God, who was the other guy you had him at?
Sleeper.
Yes,
Sleeper. Yeah.
Sleeper, and then there's the other guy at the convention. You know, when he's like, I don't
Yeah. John
expect you.
Alexander. Yeah.
That's it. Yes. So we do have those counterbalances, right? There's stuff that John says that was true. There's stuff that clearly, mm, I mean,
Yeah. It's
it's
so it's
not, but
messy.
but you have
It's
the other people. So I think it's balanced well.
I try to, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
It's
try to
not
be
just like you're
objective.
a loop.
No,
Yeah.
I wanted people to just see the truth, right?
Mm.
And the truth is humans are complicated,
Oh,
right?
of
People
course.
lie. And so sometimes people expect, oh yeah, you have a whistleblower that comes out and he has to be a person that has never lied in his life. I'm just giving an example, right? And then they
Yeah.
find one lie and then like, oh, we're going to use that to
Yep.
discredit him. And the truth is people are just complicated. Everybody lies. It doesn't mean what they're talking about is a lie, right? So,
Mm.
but everybody lies, or some people actually believe what they're saying. In this case, John Lear. Again, I've never met John Lear, but looking at hundreds of hours of footage, I actually think he genuinely believed what he was saying. I think he was
Yeah.
completely misinformed and was kind of losing it towards the end of his life. Um, but but yeah, I mean, and that's what I wanted people to see. Kind of like this is what Jeremy was saying. This is what he was investigating. That's just the raw truth. They didn't all get along. They all, debated
Mm.
about this stuff. Yeah,
But he says,
messy.
I think a lot of times we get these things and it all feels a bit sanitized, right? Everyone loves each other. No
Yeah,
one ever argues. You know what I mean? So it's really refreshing to see something and there is a little friction. But there's still that respect. Even like when you had John and Bob, right? Bob is just like, John, what are you talking about with that? But still, you can see that Bob really respected and loved John. So I think that helps really cement the work that you're doing and the story that you were telling because you're not sugarcoating anything, right? We
cool.
are
Yeah,
just peering in and being like, okay, where is this gonna go? Right? How deep are we gonna get? What's gonna happen next? And it's just fascinating. It
cool.
really is. And then we take the shift,
Yeah.
which that was something. That was I wasn't expecting that. I had
A couple of
no
people have told
clue.
me that too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's I've been hearing that, and I'm glad. I'm glad. I love movies like that. That kind of surprise people. I was hoping to surprise some people.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
But when you're putting this together, right? When like the thought of when do I introduce this bit? Right? How
yeah,
far in? Like, how long do we wait? What information do I
yeah.
give before I get to this part?
So I think, obviously you could start off with everything from the end and put in the beginning. I think the reason it was built to that way, one, it's because it's kind of a reflection of reality. The movie
Mm,
started when we were making it as one thing and then it became something else. But the other thing too is I think it was important for people to understand where Jeremy's coming from before believing him, right? Like again, the narrative that, I was fighting against as a filmmaker. There's already people already have opinions of him,
Yes.
especially people that are in the UFO field. And I see the comments on Weaponized, right? Grifter, all these horrible names that people throw out at Jeremy and George. And the truth is, they're not making money doing this. I mean, they're really not. This is not their primary source of income at all. They're in positions where they are doing this because one, they believe in the cause, and two, they found themselves in a position where they're protecting a lot of people that have come forward to them.
Yeah.
And I wanted
Yeah.
people to understand that. Like I really did. And I thought it was important. It's important to like see where he's coming from. Um, he is not trying to he doesn't put things out. He put things out at his own risk, really. And I think they would prefer, actually, I know that they prefer that the government puts it out. That Arrow, all these, Congress, like they're able to get the UFO videos out. They don't want to be the first to report on this. Like it's
Mm.
putting them at risk. They're just trying to provoke, whenever they put something out, they're trying to provoke the government to release these things.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I think it's one of those things, right? Whatever they were to do, people are gonna be like, "Oh, what? This is ridiculous. This is, and it's just like the people that write these things are only writing them because they're behind a computer screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're not gonna come up to, you know, him in what I mean, the street and say any
No,
of this stuff, right?
no, not at
It's
all.
crazy,
No,
it's stupid.
no, yeah, not at all. And I think people are just misinformed. Some of it has, I think there's, an organized element to it where,
Mm,
he has some credible things. Let's try to discredit him and George.
yeah.
And I think sometimes people see, the narrative and they go along with it, the random regular people. And I understand the frustration that a lot of people have with the UFO thing. I totally get it, and that's why I kind of wanted people to understand it is hard at their own risk to be releasing these things as independent journalists. Like, get the government to do it. They know
Mm,
what's up. Let's push as hard as we can. And I think that's what the film is trying to do. I think from, Jeremy and George hope I assume Jeremy hopes that, it provokes things. And he always says, nothing is planned, it's always provoked.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It feels a bit like a kind of interactive virtual kind of I don't know, lecture kind of you know what I mean? Like an open because
Hmm.
you have the chapters and you're writing in
Yeah.
chalk. So it's like a blackboard and it's just like, this is what we're looking at today, class. And you're just like, okay, okay, I'm down for it.
So yeah, stylistically, stylistically, I really wanted again to sort of go into like his sort of subjective experience of all of this,
Mm,
um, and try to put that in the film. When even when it comes to my DP, awesome guy Steven, he's very talented to like really frame each shot as if it's almost like it's an externalization of his internal feelings. That's really what we try to do, from the music to the to really like understand, for people to try to understand. Look, there's some things that really couldn't make the film even for legal reasons,
yeah.
right? I mean, we had to, at the end of the film, you see who his lawyer is, right? So we had to really run this down. Nobody wants to get in trouble, and but at least maybe we could feel what he was going through. But you're really also in the film, sadly, like not seeing everything, and I wish we could put everything in there.
Mm, yeah. But I
I,
think
I I tried as hard as I could. I pushed Jeremy as hard as I could. His lawyer. I mean, I pushed. Um, yeah,
I think you can understand, right? That certain things can't be in there and all of that kind of thing. There is that bit when he's kind of talking about the death threats, and then he says to you, "Do not put this in,"
yeah,
but you
yeah.
put it in.
Well,
I was just like,
obviously
what
he
was
had to
that
be.
conversation?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, it was a lot of convincing, but it comes down to, I think, people. This whole movie, I told them, people need to see who you are, what you're going through.
Mm,
You're a human. By the way, that was so not planned. I did not know he was gonna cry then. I did not know he was gonna, have that emotional. I think the emotions would come out with his mom. Happened a couple other times too. Didn't make the movie. I thought it was just
mm,
too much, but
yeah.
that was very real. It was happening a lot, and we recorded it, and it was people had to see that he's a human too, you know, and I think he is the type of guy goes in front of the camera and everything is fine. A lot of guys, a lot of people push it down, push it straight, but no, this is stressing him out. I saw it
Mm.
firsthand, like how this was impacting him and his family, and I thought that was very important to share with everybody.
Well, as you said, it just adds that extra human element to it because, I think when you are in front of the camera, right, after a period of time, you get used to being there, right? You
Yeah,
get used to controlling the feelings, like being able to um orate, what I mean, what you're saying and who you're talking to and all of that. So it's just like, you can control not, crying and those kind of things. But there's sometimes it's just it gets to a point and the floodgates will open, right? There's only so
yeah,
much you can hold back, right? But it's just human, man. And
yeah,
and it
and
just shows, that side of Jeremy.
and I wanted to do that. You know, you kind of hear that with Dylan Borland too, who's a whistleblower who, has that call with Jeremy in the film,
Mm,
and even Bob. Like, I wanted this to be an emotionally driven film where we don't try to necessarily. There's so much in this movie that we kind of gloss over. I didn't want this to be like, oh, this is the video that's going to prove everything.
yeah.
I didn't want to prove the UFO thing. I kind of wanted to humanize it for people to really understand what, and maybe in so doing, it'll help people understand and somewhat prove it. But I really want to humanize the experience of people that are really fighting to get this stuff out. That was the goal.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting one, right? I spoke to James Fox
Yeah.
about Moment of Contact 2 and Dean Alado about the alien perspective. Both are great documentaries, right? Really interesting. This isn't like it's not the same, right? It's a different thing. It's not necessarily about aliens, right? This
No.
is
It's about
about
journalism.
Jeremy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Jeremy and
is about.
journalism, character driven. Yeah.
Yeah, and about the integrity of the story, right? About
Yeah.
getting information out and asking that question, like, what's the cost?
I think and I was seeing, look, I haven't watched, again, I'm not a huge UFO guy. I've seen James Fox's amazing work. I've not watched Age of Disclosure actually. But I'm aware of like what's coming out to an extent. And, there's a lot of movies that I think are trying to put the evidence out
Mm,
into the audience, right? But I think, sometimes, people question like, where is this coming from? What
yes.
what what are the motives of these people that are telling you, hey, this stuff is real? Um, so that's what I thought that, the space was hungry for something like that. It was hungry for for humanizing the people that are trying to push this forward.
Mm. Well, it's funny, right? And I don't know if it's because you've been working on a podcast, right? It's that background. But I think the great thing about podcasts is it gives you an insight into the
Yeah.
people, right? Because you hear people talking for hours and hours and hours. And the thing being, when you're talking for that long, it's hard to keep up facades.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like people will see inaccuracies. They will, you know what I mean, be able to spot if you're lying, if you're creating a personality, all of that
Totally.
kind of. And I think we've seen that over the years,
Yeah.
right? But it gives you that insight into people who people are. So if anything happens, you know what I mean? Like some controversy, people saying, "Oh, that person is this." Because you've seen who they are, you know like how true some of these things are, right?
Yeah.
And so with this, it's kind of like a podcast because it really delves into Jeremy. And I think where you're not just being like, ha, this is the proof of the aliens, right? And blah, 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 blah. You're not doing that. But you're giving people insight, right? You're giving people the foundation of Jeremy. So now anything he's saying, people like I think it gives people like a different sense of credibility because they've seen who he is, right? They've seen the emotional toil, they've seen the things he's been fighting for, the things he's not prepared to just believe willy-nilly, right? The fact that he's thinking about all of this stuff and being like real analytical about, okay, could this be true? Could that be true? He's verifying facts, right? You've given people that. And I think that is like so much more powerful than another alien video because you're giving Jeremy the credibility to be able to do what he does.
Yeah, my hope was the movie also ages like wine, meaning, they're gonna put out a lot of stuff. Jeremy and George are gonna keep doing their thing,
Mm,
right? But people can always trace it back to the moment where they made the decision to start to really go forward, and this was a huge dilemma and in the reporting, which happens in the movie, and I think it was a huge dilemma that they had for a very long time. They have a lot of stuff that they want. I know they want to report on. I haven't seen it, but I've heard about a lot of the stuff that they have, and I think they're going to move forward and do it
mm.
and try to push it. And people in Congress too. We've had people in Congress on our podcast, and they say it's really not going to come from government. If you really, the stuff, people think, oh yeah, Congress, whatever is going to disclosure. No, I don't think it's going to come from government. I think
Yeah.
government's going to have to be forced by independent journalists or journalists, um, and that they're leading the way. I think in that.
Oh, yeah, I definitely think, because I think there's too there's been too many cover-ups, right?
Yeah.
So if government was to be like, hey, you know what? Okay, well, you caught us. You know what I mean? Like we've
Yeah.
been, here's all this video, here's because now then it's like, oh, so you've been lying, right? So we can't believe you on any, right? It just opens up too many issues. So I think you need someone else to kind of crowbar that.
People you can trust. Yeah, because
Yeah.
no, that's the truth. Like the truth is these days people don't trust institutions as much, right? And it's so funny because people say, "Oh, they want the government," but it's like the government to say this. But if they said it, okay, like well, how many people will actually trust it? If Trump, went out and said aliens are real, 40 per
Oh,
50%,
no one
half
would
of the
believe it.
half of the population will believe it, half won't, or many might not. I was like, "Oh, he's just coming up with a there's a
Yeah.
distraction now for everything else that's going
Yes.
on." So that's the problem, I think. It's like there's not one source where, I mean, it has to be like a broad acknowledgement, and I think they're fighting for that. But, I really do think independent journalism or journalism is really what's going to push things forward.
Definitely. Well, I think independent, really,
Yeah.
because other people, they're just kind of hamstringed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're not allowed to go after certain stories. You know what I
It
mean?
is
Because,
changing. I do
yeah.
think I've seen a change though. I think very big publications are now becoming more open to it as opposed like 10 years ago, how often
Mm.
would you see a UFO story come out? And now
Yeah.
it's almost like it's everywhere now. Everyone's NBC to Fox to CNN,
Yeah.
like everyone's talking about this stuff. So I think the door to that has kind of opened up.
Oh, yeah, because back in the day, right, a UFO story would be in uh, the oh God, I forget the name. There was that famous publication that would post things and everyone would be like, oh, look at is this, it's the kooky papers, right? It would be in
Oh,
those
Kevin, can you hear me? Oh,
yeah.
you cut out for
Yeah.
1 second, but you're back.
Ah,
Okay.
cool, 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 cool. But yeah, it would be in like little publications, right?
Yeah.
Publications people would just roll their eyes at and be like, oh my God. You know what I mean? But yeah, now you are seeing larger, established, recognized things talking about all of this. But I think they are only talking about it because of people like Jeremy, right? Because of, you know, independent journalists pushing to get, truth on some of these things to be like, what is actually happening?
Totally. And it's always a domino effect, right? One article gives permission for another publication, and
Mm,
then congressional hearings, brings a legitimacy to it. So I think it's just been like a bunch of things that have sort of happened since the New York Times article came out in 2017. And I don't think it can go back at this point, you know.
No.
I think it's only moving forward because there is a mystery. And whether it's, you know, I know some people might think, okay, maybe this is not our tech, maybe it's Russia or China, right? But yeah, that's not my belief. But, you know,
Mm.
whatever it is, I think the government has to answer to some extent. Somebody has to give us answers.
Oh, for sure. And yes, I think that's the thing, right? When people are like, "Oh, well, it could be another country's tech," then you'll be like, if it was another country's tech, do you not think they would be using it when they are doing some of the other things that they're doing?
Well,
You
we're
know what I
going
mean?
back to the 40s, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, this has been around for a very long time. There's, you know, documents that have been released on this stuff decades and decades. Military officials that have come out, government officials. Like, I mean, yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see it. Why didn't we
Mm.
use this in the Cold War?
Yeah.
You know?
You know, that's the thing. Like the certain responses that you hear, you're just like, but no, like because it that opens up so many questions. Like, so
Yeah,
why not this, you know what I mean? It's easy to kind of, I think, shut those things down.
yeah,
But with all of this, right, with working on the podcast, with, you know, deep diving into all this footage for this documentary, what's your thinking around this stuff? Like, where do you
yeah.
sit on this?
You know, I think the most honest answer is there's two parts to like the question, right? One is, are UFOs real and represent a non-human intelligence interacting with us? And
Mm,
for a long time, it's yes for me, right? That's, I think, the first big question that we have to get past as society, as
yeah.
you know, just it should be as common knowledge as the earth is round, right? And that we've been to the moon. Like that is, it's just real. It's a fact.
Mm,
The second part is, what is it? And then that, you know, becomes, I mean, that's just I've, you know, and I've seen people, I think, that believe in this, or that have, you know, this has been confirmed to them, the phenomenon. I've seen that they sort of use like the filter of how they were raised. So whether it's
mm,
religion or sci, right? Like you see, I always say, you see an orb that comes down, you know, to the White House as an example, right? Some people would think it's an angel, some would think it's a demon, some would think it's an
yes.
alien, right? It just really depends on what your beliefs are and what your filters are. But I think the truth is that it's a big unknown and nobody really knows what it is. And I think the answer is probably a lot weirder than we are willing to acknowledge. It's probably a
Mm,
much weirder because then it goes down to existence and what all of this is. What is our purpose here? I mean, it's these existential questions that start to kind of it spirals into. And I think that's when the real conversation will start. I mean, once we get past
yeah.
like, okay, this stuff is real, what is it? I think it's anyone's guess because from what I understand and what I've heard, these things can be anything they want to be. They come in and out. You know, there's nuts and bolts, but then there's also like a spiritual aspect to it, and consciousness is involved. So, you know, it just gets
Mm.
messy. And anyone that claims that they know what's going on, that there are, you know, individual species, or they've talked to, you know, I
Mm.
think that's all BS in my opinion. Nobody knows what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And by the way, if an alien would tell you, "Hey, I'm an alien from Mars, and this is what's happening," and this, could you even trust it? You know, that's another question, right? So, like, nobody knows.
Mm.
Nobody knows.
No, I think, yeah, I think that's where I sit too, right?
Yeah,
Just because, as you said, right, if an orb comes down, people will see it in different things. And it's just like when you look at religion across the world, all these different religions, but all have very similar stories, but framed differently.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And then you hear about like the paintings in the pyramids, Incan, Mayan temples, other temples depicting like, things coming down, and boom, boom, boom. So there's all of this stuff. And then you think about the fact that we're finding new galaxies and universes and just all of this. So just the thought that we're the only people is just ludicrous.
but I think it could even, it's way more complicated than an alien, you know, coming from another
Mm,
planet. I think, you know, these things have probably, like you said, you know, with religion and they've probably been here for a long time,
Oh, for
have
sure.
manifested in many forms. And, so the best way to really describe it, I think, and I like to say, a non-human intelligence kind of messing with us. And it could be
Yeah.
many different intelligences, but it messes with us because it scares us, but it also enlightens us. It does so many things, and it has for so many, generations. And what is it? I think is anyone's guess, but it's not as simple as, yeah, an alien coming from a star system.
No.
I think a lot of this, I mean, look, it could be living alongside us in a different reality than what we're aware of. Like, we have a limited color spectrum, a limited sound spectrum. We're
Hmm.
only seeing a very small portion of reality. And so I'm always thinking, okay, what if there's a life form in sound? That's interesting, right? Like, or in color spectrums that we can't even see or understand. Like
Yeah.
beyond our, we don't have like, I mean, dolphin sonar is an example. Like, we have our senses, right? But there are a lot of senses that exist that maybe we don't have.
Mm.
And maybe there are life forms living within those senses, or in different dimensions alongside us, that they can kind of see us and come into our reality, but we don't have the same abilities. So again, these are just guesses. They're not necessarily my beliefs, but it's kind of like a what if sort of thing. It's anyone's guess, and anyone that says, "Oh yeah, these have to be demons or aliens or whatever," I think are full of it.
Yeah. Oh no, like, when you just think that we've only just found out that trees talk to
Oh, I didn't
each
know that. But
other.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, yeah. No, I remember I read something too, like when plants are killed, they scream.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
wild.
And
Wild.
like if something is eating a plant, like it will send a signal, and then further down, they kind of can change the taste to stop people eating.
Yeah.
Right? So we've only just found that stuff out, right? So when you think there's all of this stuff that we just still don't know and we're discovering, who who knows? Yeah, I think someone was talking about like realities layered. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
beside you, there's another you kind of beside you
I'm
and another, and
I'm
it's like,
sure there's some kind of, and I do believe on a spiritual level, there's everyone has experienced in my mind something odd, like an
mm,
anomaly. As an example, I'd say this, when if everyone has had this experience where they haven't thought of someone in a long time, they think of them and they call them, or
yeah, yeah,
everyone
yeah,
has had
yeah.
that. It's a shared universal experience. What is that? Right? What is that? Everyone has had that, and or the weird coincidences that have happened, that everyone has had. A lot of people like to brush it aside and say, okay, it's nothing special, nothing important. But no, like the chances of that happening is so, like, what does that represent? So to me, it always represented that there's something more, there's something beyond that is going on that we really don't understand. And I think
Mm.
religion has tried to kind of, dumb it down for people maybe, but I really think it's beyond our comprehension. That's the ultimate truth.
Oh,
Sadly, because I would love to know, right? I would love to
mm.
know, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
I
mystery.
think, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, everyone would love to know, I think. Like, everyone wants just clarity on, is there
Yeah.
or isn't there? What is it? Right? But yeah, can we comprehend that thing? You know?
Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt it. And I don't think we were made for that,
Mm,
I really don't. And we talk about purpose, like what is our purpose here? Maybe it's not, this stuff. Maybe we should just be focused on day to day being the best person you can be. I mean, I don't know, it's just fascinating. I
well,
always think about like what if Earth is like a womb and for the soul almost, and these UFOs are kind of like
mm,
ultrasounds, like in a way before something, you're reborn into the
mm.
next life. It's fascinating.
I mean, it could be,
Yeah.
right? It could be. But it is kind of funny, like, people want, you know, clarity on this stuff, but then there's people that can't even handle, right, the fact that, same gender might like each other, right? That
Yeah.
blows some people. So do you think you can handle this, right? If you can't handle that, do you think
Yeah.
you could handle this? You know what I mean? Like,
100%. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
we need to get to a place, where we move beyond all of this stuff. And I think it could be a very uniting thing for humanity if this stuff came out.
definitely, definitely. I mean, I think whenever like we create things, it can it can leave a mark on you, you
Yeah.
know? What do you think this has left on you? How do you think this has
Yeah.
impacted you? And even like maybe like changed the way that you tell stories?
That's very interesting. I think I mean, I've learned so much from just from a filmmaker's perspective in making this movie. A documentary is again very risky, scary, and different than doing a narrative film. I
Mm.
think this was probably the most difficult first feature I could have done. I couldn't think of something more difficult. I mean, a narrative for me now is just going to be so easy to just go into, just make a horror movie, and just focus on the craft. I have actors. I don't have to, worry about what they're going to say, all of that stuff. Um, I think how it's changed my opinion on all of this stuff, and I like everyone else, I'm curious about what's beyond and everything. Um, I think I have like to an extent a confirmation that okay, there's something going on. This is real, and I also don't want to know more. I'm a
Mm.
little, and I thought I did. I really did. I thought I wanted to really get to the bottom of it, and there's a side of this stuff that's a little scary, I think. And,
Yeah.
and I've realized like maybe the world is not about like trying to figure out what UFOs are. And I think it's good that everybody knows that this stuff is real. Again, basic science fact. I think it'll help advance humanity. I think it'll do a lot of good. It'll unite humanity. But as far as, what it act going deep down and the theory of it, maybe that's not important. Maybe life is more about the people you love and just becoming a better person. Like that, I think,
Mm.
is kind of what I think I've learned through this. Like maybe it's not good to like not good for you to try to like go down into the rabbit hole and try to figure this out because I think it's impossible.
Yeah.
But it's very real. I think it's very real, and at least the government and very high level people, highest you can think of, know that it's real.
Mm, mm.
That
It
was
is
shocking.
yeah, it is one of those things, right? And I've thought about it with like ghosts and all of that kind of stuff. And you see people, like doing seances and all of this, and I'm just like, okay, but what happens if something's like, yeah, I'm here. Like,
Hmm.
where do you then go? Right? Like, what's the end goal in actually having all of that confirmed for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of I think it opens up a lot, right? If you actually got firm confirmation. But I think like as you said, like look, we've seen footage, right? We've heard people talk. So I think it's pretty clear there are things, right? And I think,
Yeah.
as Bob says, kind of, in the thing, that's kind of enough for him. And I kind of think, yeah, knowing that there is things, yeah, like that's not a bad thing to know because, like,
Yeah.
what would be the other thing? Like, is the other thing finding out there's this big plan and you know what I mean? Like, let's just say, and they're coming to Earth to take over in 10 years. Like, you wouldn't want to know that, right?
Well,
So
no, but
it's
also
just,
like it just meant like they're already here. Like, so it's
yeah.
like all of this stuff, I think is used, there's a lot of reasons I think for people to be trying to control the narrative on these sort of things. Government wants control of this and but to be honest, no, I don't think, anybody knows and there's no plan and I think whatever these things are, they live here like all of us. They've been here a long
Mm,
time and it's just accepting that and understand and trying to learn. Then we can start trying to learn about it about the phenomenon. But yeah, it's so complex, and I think a lot of people that are for disclosure that have worked in government don't want all of it out because I
mm,
mean, there's national security implications, I
yeah.
think, with the actual technology. But then beyond that, there's like stuff that is scary that we don't fully understand, and so yeah, I mean, I understand that. I totally get that
Mm,
because nobody actually knows. So like, you put out a bunch of information, but the end result is we don't really know.
yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. So what do you do with that, right? And again, if it's true that it can manifest in many forms, it could trick you. It could trick us.
Mm,
Maybe we're going down this rabbit hole thinking, oh, these aliens are from some planet and they look like this or whatever, but maybe that's not true at all. Maybe it's just presenting itself in that way. So it could be this never-ending mystery.
Well, there are so many examples of things that, are kind of chameleons. Like when you think about the ocean, right? Which is
Yeah.
an area that we still haven't really explored, right? There's things that can change what they look like. I mean, even on land, there's animals that can make themselves look like a branch, right? And so it's just to think that something else couldn't do that.
Oh,
Like,
totally.
yeah, you have to
Totally.
be thoughtful with all of this kind of stuff,
Totally. Yeah, it's a mystery. Again, there's a lot of anomalies, in nature.
Mm,
And again, we have such a small perspective, I think, and we of reality. It's a very limited view, in
yeah.
my opinion.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like with, going into all of this information, right? And as you said, you've got the tattoo stuff and all of this. Is there thoughts of kind of rolling out more Jeremy content, as it were?
Yeah, look, I've thought about it. I think I need to take a break from the UFOs. Like, for me, it's like I want to tell really good stories about
Mm.
obsessions. Now it
No, but
doesn't.
not just like the UFO stuff, but like maybe the tattoo story,
Oh, yeah. So
right?
that's something that's interesting to me. 100%. I mean, there's a lot. One thing I've realized. So yes, 100%. And I think a story usually calls and needs to be told,
Yeah.
and that's when it's told. So I have a couple of projects in development, 100%. Um, but it needs to demand to be told, and then I think it is the right time, 100%.
Mm.
But yeah, there's so much. There is so many stories.
Indeed, indeed. So, do you like a project? So, when you're thinking about possible projects that you might want to work on, like, do you kind of write down things, write down treatments? You have these possibilities,
Yeah.
and then see which one kind of keeps coming to the mind.
Yeah, it's a one that sort of haunts you. And those are the best movies, I think, too. The
Mm,
ones that stick with you that you cannot forget. Um, I think I talked to Jeremy, like, you watch it, but like 2 weeks later, you're still thinking about it.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
that's what's interesting to me. The ones that keep coming into my head that I cannot drop. And then my hope is that, oh, it resonates with me. It's probably going to resonate to a lot of people. So this story needs to be told. Those are the best films, in my opinion. I still think of like scenes from The Godfather, and I haven't seen that film in years. Like there are just those special movies that do that, and that's what I hope. Those are the stories I hope to tell.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the thing, right? You'll watch certain things, and it is the thing that kind of I find very frustrating about, you know, doing the whole press thing, right? Like going
Yeah.
to press screenings or watching screeners, because I'm like, I need to talk to someone about this, right? But
Yeah.
oftentimes, at a screening, everyone just gets up and leaves, right?
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
watching a screener at home, like you watch it and then you're like, oh, there's no one to,
No
oh,
one to chat
okay.
about it.
And you're
Yeah.
just like, I need to talk. And that's a bit because these things can really sit with you.
Oh,
And
totally.
just watching this, right? I think you clearly see Jeremy's passion, right? And just all how everything unfolds and everything. And you're just like, God damn, right? Like
Mhm.
because obviously I think you do a great job of showing the kind of drivers of Jeremy, but you just want to be like, but what else is there? Like what are the other things that are just keeping him going? Right? Because there's so many
Yeah.
times in life that you talk to people about things that they want to do or they're interested in. And then they're like, oh, this year I'm going to learn a new language, or this year I'm going to do this, or oh, my goal is to do this thing. And you're just like, but why haven't you done it then? That's kind
Yeah.
of, you know what I mean?
The,
There's the
and,
things in
and
place that we could do that thing.
That's a fascinating thing about Jeremy. He's just a guy. He didn't go to
Mm,
journalism school. He wasn't part of like CNN or something, and then started investigating this stuff. Like he is just a guy that used his network and connections to find a way to the top of this subject and pushed hard and
Yeah.
worked nonstop, and that's the interesting thing. It's like anybody can do it, and he's said that too. He has told me that, like anyone that's, complaining about like, oh, you can find it yourself. Go,
Mm.
find sources. It's not that hard. They're out in the world. They share the same planet Earth as you do, right? So go out, find these sources. You'll find something if you look hard enough. I really think so. And so that's what Jeremy's always said. It's like, yes, he's just a guy, but he has the ability. He does it.
Yeah.
Other people can, and there are other people that do it. There are other people that investigate that have, found their own sources and released stuff too. It's not just Jeremy and George. But, I think that's a really good way to think about it, to
I
do.
definitely, yeah, I think it's like a good motivation for people, right? Watching this and just seeing how this seed, what I mean? He's nurtured it and grown and watered and just, what I mean, brought
Yeah,
it to fruition. I think that's really, I think people can look at that and be like, I could do that for the thing that I'm passionate about,
yeah,
you know? But I
yeah.
also kind of, with this kind of stuff, like with Jeremy and yourself, really, it's kind of like when someone doesn't necessarily come from that background, right? So they haven't gone to school in the thing,
Yeah.
right? So it's like now you're approaching it without any of the preconceived notions,
Totally. And
you
you're not
know?
tied down. I mean, that's the
Yes.
thing. George Knapp is his mentor, so he has like mentorship and guidance and the proper one that he's developed over years of, trying to find sources, contacts. But, Jeremy's not a government guy. So
Mm,
like he doesn't like there are a lot of government officials that come out, they talk about whatever, but they are tied down because
yeah.
they don't have the freedom to say anything they want, right? Where Jeremy, I mean, as a journalist, an independent journalist, he can say a lot more. Um, so it puts him in a very unique situation, him and George.
Yeah, and the other thing I think as well, it's like when you're from a certain background, right? There's certain ways of speaking,
Yeah.
right? And you might not even think you're doing it, but you fall into these patterns, right? So you're checking yourself, you're self-editing yourself in when you're talking about things. So without any of that baggage, Jeremy's kind of freer to
He's become
really
less. I mean,
explore.
that's a thing. So, right, like he's learned too, like you have to protect sources.
Yes.
So, like, it's been a journey for him, from what I understand, where, you learn. And now, I mean, he does it. He's great, but you learn over time on how to choose your words wisely. But yeah, he does have a freedom that a lot of people don't.
Mm. And I think with yourself, right, not
Yeah.
being this avid believer, like, yes, it's all real. I believe in every single thing. Like, I think the film would be different if someone like that made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I keep one foot out. It's funny. Like all my friends, family, like they're not huge. They don't really believe in this stuff. But yeah, I wanted to speak, I think, to the people that might be skeptical too, and give them a story. And that's the lens I approached it with.
mm,
And I think it was good. Like I intentionally did not watch during the production of this and going through everything. I did not watch any UFO movies really. I try to stay away from it because I didn't want to be influenced in any
yeah.
direction. I kind of just wanted to do the thing, tell the story, character driven.
Mm. Well, man, you have done a great job. Like,
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you.
I I really did like just love this.
Oh,
It's
thank
funny,
you.
like I get sent these things, and a lot of times I don't look to see, and especially when it comes from certain people, right? I've worked with Lily and Daniel, a lot. So, when certain people send things, I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do it, right? So I wasn't necessarily, you know, completely sure what this was. And so I'm just coming in with, you know, no preconceptions. And just from the giddy up, I'm grit, right? And
Cool.
then the way you allowed this story to breathe and unfold, man, you've done a great job, man. You
Thank
like
you, Kevin.
for your first like feature, like this is phenomenal. And even
Thank you.
like it doesn't feel like it's a first feature, right? The way you allow people to talk and you're not trying to fit people into a box or anything like that, man. I'm here for what you do next.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate that.
No worries, man. Like, I know you're dropping on the 8th.
12th,
So yes,
May
but you're
12th.
doing theaters first?
Yeah, there's a couple very limited release in theaters, and then it's gonna be on Apple TV and Amazon Prime on the 12th. So digitally out to the world.
Right. Yeah. Which must feel great, right?
Oh yeah, I'm excited for this to go out. And that's the thing, we didn't tease this thing a year before or anything. We want it out.
Mm.
Um, and it's coming out.
Tremendous, man. Well, I am sure when everyone gets to watch this, they're gonna be just blown away by
Oh,
it.
cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
so
Thank you,
yeah,
Kevin.
I think what I mean, you're gonna get hit up with more things for sure. I mean,
All right.
coming up. So yeah, I'm definitely looking to see what obsessions you bring to
I
the
go.
screen next.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
No
All
worries,
right.
man. No worries. Can you let people know how they can keep track of everything you're doing?
Sure, yeah, I have my own production company, midnightbrewproductions.com on Instagram. I'm out there. Sleeping Dog Movie, you can follow on Instagram. And we post regular updates on the film, and we're probably going to be posting exclusive clips as well, things that didn't make the movie. And we're also on YouTube, Midnight Brew Productions on YouTube. So we hope to put out a lot more content as well. There's so much of the John Lear stuff, of interviews with Jeremy George that just we couldn't fit into the movie. That is just big, huge things. But again, I kept the North Star of this is Jeremy Corbell's story, but we want to put it out, and they will come out.
Oh, fantastic. What I mean? Everyone's like bonus content. So that's
Exa-
awesome to hear, man.
exactly. Cool.
Awesome. Well,
All right.
people, all the links will be on the webpage for this episode. So make sure you go follow. Yeah, because Michael's going to be doing big things, it's clear to see, right? Definitely watch Sleeping Dog because it's phenomenal, man. If you loved
Thank you.
Icarus, you're going to love this for sure.
Thank you, Kevin.
No
All
worries,
right.
man. Thank you for your time, man.
Of course. Thank you so much. That was great.